Hello everyone, welcome to this introductory module of the course of Economics of Innovation. In this particular module, we will talk about the different aspects of innovation. We will focus on the literature, particularly economic literature, and what are their matters of concern for them. We will define innovation. Then we will also move on to talk about whether there are any distinctions between invention, innovation, and technological change, what the economist has to say about it. Later, we will talk about why innovation is important for the firms and the policymakers. In this particular section, we will also talk about the top 10 innovations and the innovative companies, just to highlight the impact of such innovations on our day-to-day life. There are two other subsections in this broad module. The another one will talk about the stylized facts about innovation, and we will also look at how innovation preceded by invention has been talked by the economist in the history of economic thought. So clearly, innovation is not a new concept. It is rather old. It is as old as the human existence. In fact, humans' life on this planet has been supported by the creative and the innovative activities of the human being. If you look at the basic survival, would not have been possible to begin with if the agriculture would not have started. Agriculture would not have started if there would not have been a plow, or if, as we move forward, whether we are talking about animal husbandry or any other kind of survival activities that has been undertaken so far. So clearly, it is the creative aspect and the innovative behavior of human being which has supported the human life. And it is the scientific temperament and the technological change that has brought in different products, gadgets, which now support the modern lifestyle. Economic theory has talked about innovation at a rather later stage. A very focus of the classical and neoclassical economists has been the capital accumulation. It was felt that it is only through the accumulation the countries are likely to grow. With the works of Joseph Schumpeter, we find that innovation became an important point of talk. He has also pointed out that what innovation can do to an economy in form of a creative destruction, a concept hugely popular and we will also talk about in detail. Innovation for a very long time was being treated as a black box in the economic theory. Effectively, what we had in the new classical economics was a production function, whereby the output was a production of the labor and the capital employed. That led to a certain amount of output. And this production function was being assumed at a given level of a technology. If technology changes, the function shifts. So that means for a same level of a labor and capital, you will be able to get higher output. But for that particular function, it was being assumed to be static. And what happens within a firm? In fact, input comes in and output goes out. Clearly, in that case, where were the scope for the innovation was not being studied. In fact, the discussion on innovation you will find has picked up, particularly after the World War II. Now we will talk about what has been the focus of economic literature when it comes to innovation. One set of studies you will find is actually look at the process through which the innovation occurs. They talk about an innovating firm vis-a-vis the optimizing firm. They talk about how networks support the innovation process. They talk about how the organization innovate and what kind of organization innovate. Apart from that, another set of studies focused on the role of institutions, organizations, and actors at the national and the regional level. You will find that institutions like intellectual property right or that of finance, like financial institutions, whether we are talking about availability of finance in the capital market or through the venture capitalists. These venture capitalists, whether they support the innovation activity or not, effectively determine what would be the level of the innovative activity within a particular country. Then there are another set of studies which look at the different aspects of the innovation. These set of studies highlight the sectoral differences that exist among the different industries. For instance, you will find the sectors like pharmaceutical, semiconductor, and in the current world, IT related, particularly related to AI or machine learning or with respect to data science, you will find huge innovation going on those sectors. And there might be other sectors which have rather become more stagnated when it comes to technological change. It doesn't mean that they were like that forever. Each sector has seen their different waves. And then, of course, there are general purpose technologies which introduce change in in all the sectors. Say, for instance, the way the computer did. They brought the changes not only in the manufacturing sector but also in the banking, in the services, in the way we function. So effectively, those kind of a general purpose technologies will have a much broader effect of innovation. Another set of studies focus on how the innovation affect, influence, or impact the country. They look at not only the economic impact, that is, in terms of increasing the standard of living, but also what is the impact on the society, what it has led to, what kind of a changes and innovation lead to in a society. Say, for instance, with the introduction of the smartphones, we find that most of the people now use the smartphones to communicate. Even though they might be sitting in front of each other, they would rather WhatsApp each other than talk to each other. So we are looking at some major behavioral changes in the society and that of the human being. However, for the economics, the focus and usually end up being on the growth and the employment and also on the competitiveness of the country. Employment effect of technological change is something which has been much debated, conflicted, and there are rather controversies related to that. In the recent times, you would have looked at various reports in the newspapers about how AI is now going to affect the employment, how robots are going to drive away people from their factories. So clearly, employment is one important aspect that need to be studied with respect to any type of technological change that we are talking about. So let us look at the definition of innovation. There are number of definitions which are available in literature. However, for my work and particularly for this course, we will focus on what Schumpeter mentioned. Schumpeter mentions that innovation may engage introduction of the new products in the market. It may engage with the new way of doing the things, configuring the things the way they were not being done earlier. They might be related to exploring the markets which are not known to the companies at one point of a time. Another form of innovation is in industrial organization that the capitalist enterprises create. According to Schumpeter, innovation is essentially a setting up of a new production function. Here, discovers the case of a new commodity as well as those of a new form of organization. This form of organization may emerge in terms of merger or rather of opening up of a new market. What he mentions is indeed very important. That is a creative destruction. This innovation which we are talking about in form of introduction of a new consumer good or that of a new way of doing things, the new way of configuring things or looking into the markets which remain unexplored earlier. What happens and what the impact which is now being felt by the economy is being referred to by him as a creative destruction. Creative destruction is a hugely popular word and you will find is indeed an oxymoron. What do we mean by that? It means that it actually comprises of two words which are poles apart. So you have a term which has creation in it as well as destruction. What do we mean by that? Putting very simply, the idea behind the term creative destruction is that whenever an innovation happens, this can be in a form of introduction of a new product or new way of doing things or any of those things which we have mentioned earlier. So when the phone cameras were being introduced, what we find is that the cameras which were being used by people for even clicking their pictures of their daily activities were also now being taken over. Though, of course, the professional cameras still persist. So essentially, we are talking about a situation whereby an innovation takes over the existing structure and create ways for the new to establish. Now, that particular process many a times engage looking at new combinations of the existing resources. The process of innovation many a times engage new combinations of the existing resources. Who does that? Schumpeter alludes to an entrepreneur and gives him this particular activity The activity is that of a combination, and this important entrepreneurial function has been attributed to an entrepreneur. Invention, innovation, and technological change. Are these three terms distinct? Is there a need to make a distinction? When we look at the early work of the Schumpeter, we find that there is quite a distinct treatment of the word invention and inventor, and from that of innovation and innovator. In fact, he has repeatedly emphasized the distinction. He has mentioned that innovation is possible without anything we should identify as invention, and invention does not necessarily induce innovation. He not only rejected the idea of innovation is being dependent on invention, but also asserted that the social process which leads to innovation are quite distinct. They are different economically and sociologically from the social process which produce inventions. Following that, the researchers have looked at the need to make this kind of a distinction. Economists like Rutten has in fact argued that there may not be any need to make this kind of a distinction because invention in some manner is antecedent to innovation and innovation in turn antecedent to technological change. However, from all practical purposes, when it comes to in terms of empirical studies also, what we find is that a certain kind of a distinction does exist. For instance, invention, according to Rutten, can be something which is a subset of a technical innovation and on which the patents can be obtained. A similar treatment has also been given by Nelson in his work when he says that granted that the term invention can be used to include all human creative activity, from composing to poem to developing a chemical process, for our purpose, it is well to define the term narrowly so as to include only patentable inventions. Then what leads us with the innovation? Innovation, if you look at the term with a nova in it, which essentially means something new. It, in that case, will designate anything new in the area of science, technology, and art. Rutten further argues that if there is a need for any kind of a more precision on that, then innovation can be preceded by appropriate adjectives. Scientific innovation, technical innovation, organizational innovation, or something even more precise. In fact, in the recent times, we have seen like inclusive innovation, green innovation, and as per the requirement, as per the need, and as per the specific purpose for which the innovation is being talked about, these adjectives has been added. In terms of technological change, effectively that comes from its functional sense to designate a change in the coefficients of a function which relates input to output, leading resulting from a practical application of innovation in technology. The idea is that any kind of an innovation, when applied in the real world into the production technologies for the economic organization, there is going to be change in the way the inputs lead to the output. And if that changes does happen, then that can be designated as technological change. Once again, in that sense, Rutten pointed out that invention is likely to precede innovation, which is likely to precede technological change. Technological change, in the way it has been pointed out by Rutten in this case, is effectively very similar to the way the Solow has presented, whereby you have a production function Q, which is essentially an output, which is a function of your capital, labor, and T. Now, this T, again, in this particular function, appears to represent a technical change. Thus, it is effectively leading to a kind of a shift in the production function. That is the approach which has been pointed out by Rutten and later also, that technological change in this functional sense, when we talk about and work followed from the work of the Solow, essentially lead to a shift in the production function. However, we had a further economist like Schweitzer who has pointed out that change in the productive techniques also shift the production function. In that case, if we simply relate technological change to merely shift in the production function, it is going to be an extremely restrictive kind of a treatment because it will exclude change in the productive technique other than those which results in the shift of the production function. Hence, if we include those also, that is the change in productive techniques may indeed be caused by invention itself. Hence, the change in the production function can come through invention. That is an argument which has been given by Schweitzer. And later we find that lot of literature, in fact, in economics, essentially talks about how this technical change indeed happens, whether it is exogenous to the system or whether it is endogenous. The simple model of endogenous technical change are those in which R&D essentially expands a variety of the inputs or the machine which are used in the production, leading to once again an improvement in the output generation. Models with again expanding input variety will lead to a creation of new varieties of input, and a great variety of input will increase the division of labor process, which is being called as a process innovation in a technical sense, and we will talk about it. The another type of alternative as compared to what changes is with respect to the product innovation, whereby there will be invention of new goods, and because people love variety, they will be expecting more and more variety in the production, in the goods which are there for the consumption, and as a result you'll find that the real income increases. These are the treatment which has been accorded by Grossman and Helpman in their work.
Now we talk about the purpose of innovation. The purpose of innovation here in this slide has been made into two specific sections. One section look at the purpose from a company point of view, from a firm's point of view, essentially a micro perspective. Then we are looking from a point of view of a social planner who is now looking at innovation from the point of view of the gains that will happen or accrue to the society. From a firm point of view, I think it is extremely understandable that in the current context, cost cutting is not enough. Companies will not be able to survive in an industry or beat their rival if the focus of that particular organization is merely cost cutting. There is a need for the firms to engage in an innovation activities so that they can develop what is being referred to as a competitive advantage, something which keeps them ahead of their competition. That kind of a competitive advantage will ensure that the companies will be able to make higher business revenue and also earn better returns. Investment in research and development leading to prototypes, introduction of new product, introducing of the new ways of doing things then becomes extremely pertinent for the survival of the companies itself. And we see that this is an important consideration for the firms to survive. Apart from that, an important point here is that the current extremely volatile and changing situations whereby technology is growing at a very fast pace, it is important for the companies to take advantage of the opportunities which are now being presented in the market. If the companies will not take advantage of the opportunities which are presented, clearly they will become obsolete. Somebody else will take advantage and will move forward. And we also understand that these opportunities are changing very fast. So that means there is a need to ensure that there is a constant flow of innovation. It is like that you have to keep running at the same place to maintain your competitive edge. And that can be done only by investing in the research and development to ensure that the companies are able to take advantage of the opportunities which are being presented through the technological change. They have to invest. They have to invest in research and development. Thus, a constant flow of innovation is required for the business survival, and that is now being supported through what is being called as a sustained innovation. That means continually innovating in order to sustain in the market. So, from a firm point of view, in order to sustain, in order to survive, in order to deal with the rivals, it is very important nowadays to be engaged in the innovation activities. The focus of such activities is very clear. They want to maintain a competitive advantage. They want to be ahead of their rivals, increase their returns, and also earn higher business revenues. Now, however, the question arises from a social planner's point of view why innovation then becomes important if it is merely about earning better revenues. Thinking from social planner point of view, one can see that it is the innovation activities of the different firms which has led to the creation of various products that improves the standard of living of individuals. It is not only that the standard of living is being improved, however, the overall life has become easy. Think of the innovations in the healthcare sector, whereby you'll find the newer drugs being made available, the longevity has increased of the human being, and essentially the overall human well being has improved. From a social planner's point of view, clearly, innovation which are undertaken by firms also give them a competitive edge in the international market. Firms will survive in the international markets only if they have this new to the world products. Survival in the international market will also ensure that the country's position in the balance of payment is rather robust. They are able to earn foreign exchange and also they are able to earn foreign exchange. So, thus, from the point of view of economic growth, and also in order to improve the overall standard of living of human being, clearly social planner also envisage that the firm should be undertaking major innovation activities. Please remember, if you look around nowadays, most of the products of the modernity, the products which are available with you, are essentially the outcome of the scientific research that has been undertaken, technological progress that has been made in the last 3 centuries, and that has made the life of human being rather easy. Let us now look at the top 10 innovations. I have taken this list from two sources just to have a comparative picture. And one source is from National Geographic and the other source is from history.com. And I also encourage you to look at other sources and find if you can find something new which is not in these two lists. So the first one is printing press and very common to both of them. And also the light bulb, which is also common, that is being captured through electric light in the history.com list. Then there is airplane, personal computers, vaccines, automobile, clock, telephone, refrigerator, camera. If you look at most of these products, essentially they have improved the health conditions of human beings. They have also improved the way we transport. It has also improved the way we communicate. The means of transportation has made the life of human being easy and also the way we communicate with each other. In the list from the history.com, there are certain very interesting entries. For example, there is a compass. Clearly, without that, it was extremely impossible to navigate the large seas which we have on our planet. Paper currency. Nowadays, we might be thinking of what is the need of the paper currency in view of the bitcoins or the cryptocurrency that are existing. But so far, clearly, paper currency has played a very significant role in ensuring that the transaction happens amongst the people, amongst the companies, among the firms, among the different individuals, and of course, among the nations. Then there's steel, electric, light, and domestication of horses, which once again support the means of transportation. Transistors, magnifying glass, telegraph, antibiotics, and steam engine. Lastly, we look at some of the most innovative companies that are present. Now, this list has come from BCG and it is in the 2021. What I will suggest to you is to go to the either same website or look for other alternatives and see the list over a period of a time. So you can do this exercise whereby you look at the list in 2010, 15, 20, and then also in 23. What is the focus? The focus is to see whether the same companies persist or whether there is a change. Are there new entrants or whether the incumbents are still ruling the roost? So if you look at this list, app companies like Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, Samsung, IBM, Huawei, Sony, and Pfizer are present. So I would encourage you to go back and like not only look at this particular list for a year, but over the years and understand how the dynamics of innovation change in the different sectors. In the next lecture, we will talk about the stylized factor of innovation.